Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. Today I would like to present you a very useful knowledge for destroying framework. So a lot of times when black approaches and we defend, black would hop back with a 3-space high extension. So this is the topic for our today's discussion. I would like to present you an exhaustive list of variations for you to master so you can fully destroy your opponent here, just because of the amount of memorization and with a little bit of tough work to do, you can become a master of just this local variation. Alright, so the move I recommend today is for you to play h3. Now, against this move, there's the most obvious move is to attach at h4. However, I do want to present some other variations that you might encounter. Sometimes your opponent might just play out the k3, in which case we can simply kick. This is a very tough move to deal with now. So if black extends out, then we can either hop out, or we can tenuki actually, or even we can just play the Hane Connect to secure the corner, and also leaving a very hard, a very tough weakness for black. Black pretty much has to go back and fix. And now we can see black's shape is very redundant, and white has a sente. White can immediately invade the other corner. So we can see instantly white will gain a huge territorial advantage. Not to say that there are obviously more severe moves, right? Such as just playing the bamboo shape here, completely cutting black off. If you're a fighter, you might want to attack these two stones right away. This is a little bit over aggressive though, so I do recommend to viewers who are good at fighting for this variation. But k3 is not what we see usually. AI does have other recommendations, such as attaching at d3 and also playing the tenuki, which is really hard to understand. So we're not going to cover those in details in today's discussion. I want to really work on the h4, which is most of the time what you will be encountering. Against h4, the first thing we need to check is the ladder on both sides. So we have to make sure that that the ladder works for white on the left side over here, this region, and also the ladder works for white on the right side of this region, which is the case when this is like the 5th move of the game. This is definitely the case. What do I mean by that? So if the ladder does not work, black has the variation to attach at j3. When white extends, now black can check which direction ladder works for black. Let's say for example, if there's an exchange, I guess if there's an exchange like this, then black can connect over here. Now without the stone, white can ladder and then just gain a huge advantage. But now since black can actually run out, this is not a great variation because the ladder does not work, which means white has to play out this one, and therefore black is going to actually ladder 2 stones. So this variation doesn't really work for white. On the other hand, if black happens to have a stone over here, now black can Atari at h2. So for the exact same reasons, this ladder does not work, which can cause complications. So obviously the ladder does not work in this direction is not as severe because white can extend out. When black plays here, white can just sacrifice the 2 stones, and that's no problem. But usually I recommend you to have the ladder on that side as well when you wedge. Okay, let's first assume that the ladder works for you on both sides and you're able to wedge. If black still Ataris, then we can extend. Now we can see there is a ladder on this side, and there's Atari, then ladder on that side. black has only one move to fix, right? You probably know this. The correct move is push at h5. Now, pushing at k5 would be a big mistake. So against this move, like sometimes your opponent remembers, yeah, there's a push somewhere, but if push is on the wrong side, white can Atari here. Now black needs to run, white extends out. Black pretty much has to cut over here. And now when white extends, now there's a serious problem. There's a k3 Atari here and there's a ladder. So if black fixes, we can just ladder black and this is game over pretty much. Okay, so that's why k5 would be a mistake. The correct move is to push at h5. Now, I will briefly introduce you to the correct variation. That is for white to hane here. Black needs to jump. Sorry, actually, white needs to Atari here first, making sure this is done. Then, white needs to hane here. Black needs to prevent the ladder, and now white has the variation to extend out in this case. When black goes back and fix this problem, because whatever black plays here, the h2 is too serious, so black better just go back and fix it right now, and then white can connect, and then probably this exchange will play out where black takes the corner and then white able to capture this k4 stone completely. This would be a better position for white because white was able to gain a lot of influence, plus capturing the stone in the center. So temporarily, black might have slightly more territory, but not that much more territory, just a tiny bit more territory, but that's not going to compensate for what white has gained on the outside. This group is going to be very strong whenever a fight breaks out. Okay, that's a very brief discussion about the Atari on the bottom, which happens sometimes. The main variation is for black to Atari on top. White has to connect, and black will extend at g4. White will turn, black extends, and then white plays out the m3 to prevent further bleeding. Now, because white is going this direction, if black just pushes on top, white can actually just keep going. This is also an interesting variation. However, now when white plays the split move, it makes the wall not very strong. And in fact, to start with, this wall is pretty bad actually, because there's a lot of cutting points. So white was able to gain territory on the side, make a beautiful split move, have 3 solid moves on the outside. This is just a better position for white. So to illustrate you that actually, so black needs to already play here. We can play a 2 space extension, so maybe black will answer, and then after the exchange we can come back and maybe make our own framework. The reason is not to make this framework, rather it's looking at the ladder problem that black has here. If black's not careful, this will immediately become a problem. So this is hard to deal with. But if black does fix, this move exchanging with this move, that's quite a good gain in terms of territory, and then white can just play what he would normally play. And we can see that black's influence is largely limited by white's 2 space extension. This is a better position for white as well. That's why white is not really afraid of black pushing on top. When I was first studying this variation, the first thing I was worrying about is black pushing on top and sealing the outside. Turns out a better solution is for black to actually keep some of the territory. white will obviously push up. Now there's a lot of cutting points. So if black fixes, white can just hop out like this. So this is a very great variation for white as well. Not only white was able to destroy the framework, but also have a very solid jumping stone at M6. This stone is going to turn out to be very strong later on in the game because it has a lot of influence towards the outside. Meanwhile, if let's say these three black stones cancel out with these three stones over here, we're left with really this group versus black's group over here, and we can clearly tell that this group is slightly better than black because black stones in the center are not really doing much, and then white is already having a base over here. This cutting point is not a problem, so because there's no white has an extra liberty at G3, so this is the max that black can do is the clamp here and maybe Atari, but that's it. That's really what black can accomplish. All right, so you should be very comfortable with this position as well as white. Now, sometimes maybe your opponent also plays out a sketchy move, such as this one. The obvious refutation is for white to just push over here, right? And then we can cut on the other side. There's a Atari and capture, so white is forced to, black's forced to extend. We can also extend, and then when black extends one more time, we can keep pushing. When black honeys, we can jump at F6. Now black needs to figure out how to live the three stones. Meanwhile, there's a cutting point at J8. Okay, so for people who really want to study this in depth, I would just want to quickly play out the correct variation for black to live. So black needs to play D2, and then when white plays here, black has this move, looking for an eye here. This is usually a shape move for this kind of shape. So white kills the eye, black pushes, white blocks, black plays here, white blocks again, Atari connects and turn, Hane. Now black needs to play the Kosumi here. So this is aiming at this push and cut. So white needs to connect at L3. Black will play H2, and now this group is alive. There's a lot of life and death knowledge you need to know, but you can verify by yourself that this is alive. White now plays out the P3. After this, extend at P2, and also make a white alive right now. And now we can see that, you know, basically there's a cutting point over here. Furthermore, this push and cut doesn't really threaten anything because there's a counter Atari and then capture at G3. So white is perfectly safe here, despite there's a little bit of weakness over here. My point is that black actually has to know how to live, right? So if black just plays sketchy moves like this, these three guys are gonna be killed if black tries to live the corner like this, I think. Yeah. So black in this variation, say for example, black is gonna lose a lot of territory in Sente. White is gonna be connected from top to the bottom. Now this cut is going to be a very serious deal. White is going to cut right now. And then black lives in Gote. So that's a bad situation for black. All right, so that is some of the follow-up moves that if you have followed my Invader series, you probably have seen me talking about this invasion. But today it's a video that sort of emphasizes how important this invasion is and how serious this invasion is. So So you understand why these days the framework is not commonly seen in professional games. Okay, so that's about it for the wedge. So we talked about assuming the ladder works on both sides. What if the ladder does not work on both sides? Then we're gonna sort of recap a little bit what we said in the invasion video, right? Is for white to extend at J3. Black needs to connect. So if black extends, this is back to the same variation. Because white can just play out the same, except white does not even have to push here immediately, which is even better for white, right? The option for white to push here at any time is better for white. So black's correct move is to connect. White will keep crawling. Black harness, white harness, and then black keep extending, and now we have the famous combination that is bump into black and then Kosumi. Black cannot extend down, so right, we have shown this already, like black cannot survive. So black has to connect, and then when white connect everything, we can see the huge amount of territory that white has right now. This is just absolutely insane amount of territory. However, in this specific situation, when black plays the Sanren-sei right now, this is actually not a very clear leading game for white. In fact, it's more or less an equal game because of the combination of this wall and the Sanren-sei. This is actually not so easy to deal with for white. So if you plan to play out this variation of extending at J3, make sure that you look at what is outside. So for example, if I'm just giving you an illustration. So let's say, for example, this happens, and then you play out the exact same variation. This would be awesome for white, right? This variation would be absolutely fantastic because the two-space detention is perfect at limiting black's development potential over here. All right, so this explains you why this invasion is so strong. Not only white can play it right now when there are like 6 stones on the board, but white can play this pretty much at any time of your choosing later on, right? So you don't have to play this immediately, but black has to always worry about this possibility of invading at H3. So that is why the framework is not so great these days. But for people who really love the old times, for people who are really insistent in using frameworks because they absolutely love it, I would also like to give you guys the tools for you to hold on to it. So I want to present you now the correct variation according to AI when white invades. So obviously I said black can also choose the Tanuki and attach at D3, but I find those variations to be too hard to understand for my viewers. So I'm just going to cover the variation following the attach. So white is going to wedge, black Ataris, and then white connects. Now the key move for black is to connect at H5, and this is a pure product of AI softwares. No human beings would have thought about this H5 move before. All right, so after connecting H5 with the purpose of completely eliminating the weakness, white is obviously going to exploit by playing at G3. Black will extend up. So here white can choose to push and cut. However, the push and cut also comes with risk because whenever black blocks at K3, white only has 3 liberties. So the variation after this is too complicated, and AI does not really recommend that. So we will just turn here, hoping for black to play some move like this, and we can just lift aside, and then later on just push and cut here. AI obviously detects that. So what AI is going to do is to attach at d5. White protects the corner, and then protects again. When black Ataris, when it connects, we can see that black was able to fix the cutting point in Sente, and now black pincers white, making sure white cannot live easily. White attaches, black hanes. So guys, this is very difficult to actually understand. Maybe for I don't know what your level is, but this is just pure memorization at this point. So white Ataris on top, black Ataris, white captures, and now black seals white with this very nice looking move at m5. White now has a little bit of life and death problem, especially when black extend in at L2. But before white tries to live, white is going to counterattack at f6. Instead of black connecting here with this super inefficient move at g4, we learned something from the AI, that is to live in the most efficient way possible. So the e2 gives black the eye space, and also with this c2 as Sente, this is going to become a lot of points. So at this point, white's not gonna try to rush and cut because the g4 doesn't really generate any points. If you push here, black can live like this. So this group is alive, so why do you push and cut here? It doesn't really give you any value. So instead of doing that, white is gonna just to live himself, and now instead of blocking here, which creates all kinds of cutting point for black, the problem with this is when white plays here and you live, and then what if white cuts over here, and then all these become super heavy. So here we can learn from the flexibility of AI, right? It's playing in a very flexible way, that is to directly live, and then white is going to push out here, and now this is the end of the variation. Black is able to lift a corner by destroying white's corner. Black was able to strengthen the corner by providing these two moves. What white got was obvious, right? White was destroying the side, getting a very strong group, hurting black stones on the left and on the right, and also this group is just doing fine with this f6. This is a perfectly equal position. Super hard to understand the entire process, but if you are interested in I don't know, if you just really like frameworks and you want to hold on to them, this is something that you pretty much have to know, especially going into the high dan level high dan level games. But if you are single digit Q and then you have watched this tutorial, I'd say your chances of you defeating your opponent or gaining a very big advantage whenever your opponent plays a framework is a very big chance, because now you know pretty much all the variations, all the ideas and concepts behind a framework. So I personally find this to be a very useful knowledge, not only for myself, but I believe for my viewers who are in the single digit Q level wondering, well, what about frameworks, right? There's a lot of videos out there that saying, yeah, framework is not like by AI, but I love it, but they don't tell you what's behind the framework. Or they just don't have the knowledge to explain you the concrete variations behind a framework, like the 3-space extension. In fact, these days, because of the AI, the theory has been changed, and has been changed to that any framework is very vulnerable, especially to the third line evasions. Usually, since AI is so good at invading and living with dignity, it's just very rare to see frameworks these days because professional players do study a lot with the AI softwares. But I think for amateur level players, I don't encourage amateur level players to play frameworks. But I don't discourage them either. So I just have this very neutral view on frameworks. But today I guess my goal is achieved by presenting you the concrete variations behind one of the most popular frameworks of all time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. A side note, have been very, very busy with my career recently, so I really apologize if I'm not able to get more great Go contents out, mostly because a lot of times when I'm super tired, I tried to make some videos, but then my voice sounded like I was about to die. So I just can't. I'm kind of like a perfectionist, so I can't really just push those videos out where I sound like I was about to die. It's just my viewers won't like that quality. So anyway, so I hope you guys understand me from my perspective, and I will see you guys next time.